I'm Darius Harris. Welcome back to Team Focus USA. And if you haven't checked it out, go back and watch our part 1 interview with Mark Gottfried. Without further ado, grab something to drink, something to snack on, maybe a pen and pad, and here's part 2 of our interview with Mark Gottfried. Can you expand a little bit more about John Wooden?
Well, there were so many great lessons, but I always remember with Coach Wooden, he always talked about it the first day of practice every year. He would take about 15 minutes and teach the guys how to put on their socks and shoes because he didn't want guys to get blisters. And I think the lesson behind it was the attention to detail. You know, he wanted everything to be correct and everything to be right. And for him, it started off with how do you put your shoes and socks on. So it was a great lesson.
Who are your mentors and why?
Well, I've had a lot. Obviously my dad, was a basketball coach. My Uncle Mike was a mentor. Those two guys have been with me, and anytime I've ever had a question, anytime I needed anything, they've always been there. I had a great 7 years working at UCLA as an assistant coach for Jim Herrick. He taught me a lot. I learned his system, which is really the John Wooden system. And I played for a great coach in Wimp Sanderson. So I've been very lucky to have a lot of people around me that were very successful, very good, and that also cared a lot about me. And they were always there. Anytime I ever picked the phone up and asked a question, anytime I needed anything, those guys were always amazing for me.
Coach, what is the importance of listening and having a team you can bounce things off of?
Well, I think all of us need people in our lives that can help us. And I think a lot of times, and I was this way as a young person, sometimes you feel like, you've got all the answers and you know everything. And what you really need is some humility to say, I want to hear your opinion, and I think you can help me. And I think for me, I was able to have people that I could call on, that I could listen to their advice. And sometimes I might not have agreed with their advice, but a lot of times I did. But those were the people that were in my life. And so I think for young people, it's important for all of us, and especially the young people, to develop those people, those mentors around them that can really help you along the way, because we don't have all the answers. And there are people that have come before us that have had success or had failure or had difficult times, and we can learn from all those things. But we've got to all of us have to be able to reach out to those people and develop kind of a core group that we can always call on.
Coach, what was it like winning the NCAA tournament?
Well, it's an amazing thing to be a part of in college basketball. I had grown up going to Final Fours with my dad and sitting there as a young guy watching Final Fours and all the great teams around the country. And now here we are with a really good team that's got a really good chance. But you still need some luck along the way. And we had a moment. We were down by 1 against Missouri, and it was a second round game of the NCAA tournament. And they score a basket with 4.8 seconds to go. We call timeout, and we've got to go the length of the floor, 94 feet. And our little point guard named Tyus Edney, we got the ball to him, and he zipped up the floor, and he just made this amazing shot. But our team was good enough, and that moment kind of gave us the momentum and pushed us all the way, I think, to where we won the national championship. But it's one of the great thrills in sports that you're ever going to be a part of. And sometimes, when you're in that moment, you think, oh, this will probably happen, a lot of times throughout my career. And the reality is it's really hard to get there. It's hard to win it. You got to have a little bit of luck. There's so many things that come into play, but it changed kind of the trajectory for even me as a coach, having that a part of my resume. And so I was very lucky and fortunate to be a part of that. And it was as fun as anything that's ever happened to me in sports to be a part of that.
Coach, when you were younger, did you ever dream of going to the NCAA tournament?
Well, I did a lot. And again, my dad was a small college basketball coach, and then he was a Division I coach. But, I grew up, going to Final Four. So for me, that was like the pinnacle. And, as a player playing at Alabama, we were in 3 straight Sweet 16s, 3 really good teams. And then in 1987, my senior year of college, we were a number 2 seed, and Providence was coached by Rick Pitino, and they had Billy Donovan, and they upset us, and that was a heartbreaker because we really felt like we were going to play in the Final Four. And then years later, as the coach at Alabama, when I was the head coach there, we're in the Elite Eight, we're playing UConn, we're 40 minutes away, and you're just right there knocking on the door that, hey, if we can if we can play well for 40 minutes and win this game, we're going to the Final Four. And so it's hard to get there. It's so hard. And but I've been very lucky, to have been a part of some teams that came close. I was part of one team that won it all. And I've been in a lot of NCAA tournaments as a player and a coach. And so I always tell people it's the greatest show on earth. The Super Bowl's fun, the NBA's fun, and bowl games are fun, but the NCAA tournament is what everybody watches. There's office pools and secretaries, and everybody's trying to pick their winners, and it's a lot of fun to be a part of that.
Coach, can you touch on real quick the importance of just decision making, having goals, setting goals in life?
Well, I think for young people, there's so many things that are important. And, let me say this first of all. Everything that I've been able to accomplish, all the steps along the way that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of, none of it would have happened without an education. None of it. And, a lot of times, there's a lot of young people that maybe they don't really understand how important their education is to them. It's what you're learning, but it's also finishing. You've got to finish your schoolwork. You got to finish your degree, finish high school. If you go to college, finish college, because that's what your degree is all about. It says that you finished, that you are a finisher. And so that to me is the most important thing. Without that, everything changes and life is a lot harder. Doesn't guarantee you anything, but certainly opens up a lot of doors for people that might not necessarily be there. And then, I think with young people, there's so many things, understanding what it means to work hard. And, success is not easy. If you want to be good at something in life, it's not going to be easy. And nobody's going to hand you anything. There's nothing that somebody just hands and plops it right in your lap. You got to go get it. You got to fight for it. Honesty, trustworthiness, dependability, decision-making. There's so many things that go into it. And I think you learn a lot of those things from our mentors, those people that you kind of build in your life that we've talked about. I think that's how you learn those important characteristic traits.
Your profession, attitude is a big deal for players. Can you just touch real quick on the importance of body language and having a great attitude?
Well, I think it's important. It's huge. Some players you can tell as a coach, they want to be coached. Some great players want to be coached. The Michael Jordans of the world wanted to be coached. He wanted to be coached by Phil Jackson. And those guys understand that great coaches can help elevate their game. Then, we've all had guys that don't really want to be coached. And, it's like putting a square peg in a round hole. They just really don't want your coaching. And a lot of the times those guys never seem to really reach their potential. So again, it comes back to kind of humility, understanding. I don't have all the answers, and I want you to coach me, coach. And I think all of us that have coached, whether it's the Greg Popoviches of the world or the Bill Belichick's, it doesn't matter who they are, when those players have an attitude where they're willing and they want somebody to coach them, changes the game for everything. And as a player, as a young person, you have so much better opportunity, so much better chance to reach your potential instead of fighting coaching all the time. And so I think that's a really important thing.
You touched on your dad telling you to get the card and write it down and put it on the bed. Let's talk about those days when you just didn't see that happening, what you wrote on that card, the hard stuff, how you got through that.
Well, I think what was important with the index card and writing your goals on the card, I remember my dad telling me to be realistic and to be honest with yourself. In other words, sometimes we can say, well, I want to do this, but it's really not a realistic goal. And what is realistic for you, for each individual person? You still want to strive high, you want to reach high, and you want to go for those things. But then I think the importance is just the reminder every day that you have to do something. And it may be just some push-ups, some sit-ups. It may be running and going, maybe playing basketball, going to the gym, or working on your foul shooting, or lifting weights, or whatever it may be. But then at the end of the day, I was able to ask myself, did I do anything today that's truly going to push me more towards that goal? And there were times where, you get frustrated. You want to quit. You want to say, nah, I might as well just tear that card up. But I think in all of us, there's something in there that's going to, drive you. And you just got to kind of keep finding that and keep coming back to it. And, there's an old saying that John Wooden again had, and Jim Herrick has used it many times with our players, even currently. But, he said, yard by yard, life is hard. Inch by inch, life's a cinch. And sometimes, we want every day to be this monumental step every day forward. And sometimes it's just a little bit, like as a coach with our team, we just want to get a little bit better today. That's all. And let's get a little bit better tomorrow, and then a little bit better the next day. And I think if you can build on those things each day, it kind of eliminates some of the frustrations, and you're constantly moving forward to your goals.
My coach in high school had this kind of same saying, but he said, "Can you eat an elephant?" Yeah, one bite at a time. That's it. So you take it one bite at a time.
One bite. And I think to be successful in life, and whether it's athletics or not athletics, I think that applies to any part of your life. Just take a step every day, a little step every day, and one day you'll look back and see how far you've really come.
What are some of your goals right now at Cal State Northridge, and how do you switch, maybe maintain the same goals from school to school?
Well, every place is different, and the opportunity or the challenges are different too. And I'm at a school now that has not had very much basketball success ever. And our goal is to take them to the NCAA tournament and be relevant in what I call is the greatest show on earth. And that's a realistic goal for us. Not easy. It's going to be difficult. There's some challenges there. But that's a realistic goal. So I think everywhere you go, it's a different type of a goal. You got to really be smart and be honest and say, okay, what's realistic for us? And then, from there, we'll see. You never know. I still think, I was the head coach at Alabama. I was 32 years old when I took the job. And, I went to NC State, and I've coached in the ACC and the SEC. And there's still another great run out there somewhere for me. I know it, and I believe it. And it may be in the NBA instead of college. But where I am right now, it's something that it's important to me to do a great job every day. And then we'll see what happens from there.
Can you give me a name of maybe the best player you've ever coached against, or played with?
Well, when I was an assistant coach at UCLA, Ed O'Bannon was the National Player of the Year. He had 31 points and 17 rebounds in the national championship game on a Monday night in April, and we won the national championship. So as an assistant coach, that guy not only was a great player, but he was such an emotional leader for his team. He wanted to put the team on his back. He was an incredible guy. But I've had the opportunity to coach so many good players. When I was at Alabama, Mo Williams ended up with a 13-year NBA career. He was an NBA champion, an all-star. We had so many guys go to the NBA from Alabama. When I was at NC State, T.J. Warren, who plays for the Indiana Pacers, was the ACC Player of the Year. Dennis Smith was a 9th overall pick and playing for the New York Knicks. But then there's just been so many guys like that. I've had a lot of them, and they've made coaching. They've made me a better coach, I can promise you that. But I've enjoyed coaching those guys.
Coach, have you ever went after a guy recruiting, looks good on tape, but when you get to him and you sit down in front of him, you maybe have second thoughts?
Well, I think it happens a lot. And I think from my perspective, and every coach is different, but we've always put a premium on recruiting character. Talent is important, but talent without character is not going to work. And so as we get to know guys that we're recruiting, as they get to be around our current players and they kind of mix in with our current players, I listen to my players a lot. And there have been times when my players have come back and said, that was not going to work here, Coach. And so, sometimes we get blinded by talent, and talent's important. But the most important thing for me, I always tell people I want to sign NBA players, but I want NBA type people. I want NBA character. I want the best character, just as you can be the best player. And I think that's probably as important. And we've all made mistakes with that. Sometimes we get blinded by the talent and we maybe overlook the character. But looking back on it, the great players that we've had, the guys that keep getting better and better and better, those are the guys that have good talent, but boy, their character is so good and so strong that through tough times, they're just going to keep getting better. So that's been a premium for us and everywhere I've ever tried to recruit.
You're working on ESPN, doing a number of interviews, long-time coach. You've been in front of camera a lot. Is there any advice you can give any of us when it comes to our new YouTube channel?
Well, I think most important thing is just to be yourself and, think about what you want to say. And I'd prepare for games when I was working for ESPN. But I have to say, you've done a pretty good job here. I think this is a star in the making right here.
Thank you, Coach.
Star in the making.
I appreciate it. Thank you first of all for everything you do for Team Focus.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I hope you enjoyed this interview just as much as I did. Mark is such a great person and an even better coach. Please share this video with someone. You never know what they may get from it. If you haven't already, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspirational content. Have a wonderful day, and remember, God has a plan for your life.